go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and share the slides. And let's see here. Let's go to slideshow mode. So I want to welcome everyone from the RevOps Co-op. I'm Kamala Thompson. I will be your moderator today. I am just your RevOps Co-op representative. And today we're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to all of our hearts right now in this economy, and that is best practices for expansions and renewals. Things are changing, and I'm really excited to have this panel of experts to talk about how it's changing, how we need to think about it. So I'm going to kick it over to the team to introduce themselves. Julia, let's start with you.
I'm the VP of Revenue Operations at Electric. We are the industry leader in providing world-class IT technology for small and mid-sized businesses. We really try to simplify and standardize IT for your business so you can manage all aspects of your IT, including people, devices, and applications in one platform. And my background is in really working with technology startups to drive revenue growth. And really it's focusing on things like increasing forecast accuracy, accelerating sales pipeline velocity, reducing customer churn, which is so important right now. And I have been focusing more on data-driven revenue intelligence and enabling automation through the go-to-market tech stack lately. So I'm very excited to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Sarika?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarika Garg. Excuse me. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cashflow, CACHE, as you guys can see. And Cashflow is a deal closing platform, and we help SaaS companies to close and renew deals or revenue. And we've actually designed the application very much from the point of view of the seller-buyer experience. But at the back end, we are a RevOps no-code tool to actually really make RevOps life easier, because usually we find sales can close deals, but it's sort of RevOps and the finance ops that's sort of left holding the bag. And our job is to sort of take care of things end to end. Very excited to be here. We found in the last year, renewals and expansions has probably become the top of mind topic for every single company we work with. And so as a result, I've talked to many, experts like Julia and Patrick, and I hope I can bring some of that to the call today.
Wonderful. Patrick.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here on the webinar. I'm based out of Austin, Texas. I work for a company that's called Qualia. Qualia is a vertical SaaS company. We write software for title companies. So they process real estate transactions, and they use our software to process those transactions. Specifically at Qualia, what I work on is the second part of the sale. So what I call the inverse funnel of revenue operations. And my main role is to ensure our business is expanded, renewed, and well-served.
Wonderful. And thank you again for all being here. And before we get kicked off into the specific aspects of expansions and renewals, I would love to get a quick temperature check of what you are seeing in the market, just so people don't feel alone and they know that they're not the only ones seeing these things.
So
yeah,
go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was just going to say, I think for us, and we're a VC-backed company, and I think for many VC-backed companies, what's happening is the rule of 40 is getting flipped on its head, and no longer are we filling that bucket of 40 with growth. We're trying to also fill it with profit. And so I think for us, anyways, our strategy has been, how do we balance those two things so that we can get back into the rule of 40 that's so critically important to all VC-backed companies. And that's been a huge part of our objectives, our strategy for 2023 and 2024.
And really quickly, can you just expound on the rule of 40 for those of us who haven't been in VC-backed firms?
Sorry, yes. Rule 40 very simply is investors like to see the number 40 as a combination of revenue growth. So how fast are we growing over the year? And essentially profit. We'll keep it very simple. And when you add those two things together, does it equal 40 or higher? if it equals 40 or higher, you consider a very healthy business that could receive future funding.
Yeah, boy, has that changed. Other folks on the call?
Yeah. I think I love the rule of 40 reference. I think what we have definitely found is anything that's nice to have is out the window, right? Everything that people are buying and using and getting value from. So you have to be basically really important to the company, and you have to be solving a problem. So the days of shelfware or minimal usage is really, really gone. And so we are seeing not only like a sort of an effort on really asking yourself, are you critical to the business? But also, once you sell the product or your service, it's very, very important to stay with the customer and to create that value throughout the life journey of the customer, right? So that's absolutely something we see across the board, right? And for ourselves too, of course.
Yeah, I would absolutely 100% agree with what Sarika is saying. It's really about showcasing value. And so the two things we've actually been prioritizing at Electric is one, hosting QBRs. This is a really great time to use that to touch base with your customers, really use that for information gathering, understand what pain points they are experiencing, understanding how they're finding value in your product or service, and really listening. And the second piece that is top of mind, both internally at Electric and then also for a lot of our customers, is really thinking about 2024 operational planning, right? So being that support structure for that planning. So incorporating information that they can bring back to their finance teams. I think finance has been playing a larger role in approving a lot of these renewal or expansion opportunities, and really understanding goals and strategies and also challenges, right, for your customers. And all of these things in engaging with your customers will allow you to also, again, be better at customizing your value prop, right? And so those are two things we've actually been prioritizing recently.
Well, I feel that on a very deep level. Thank you all. And now we're going to talk about one of our favorite things in this market, which is renewals. And Patrick, I know that you really are the thought leader behind this slide. Why don't you take the lead?
We were talking about emojis at the beginning of the call, so here they are, one-sided. I think the main thing I wanted to deliver here with this particular slide is that a renewal is not just a automated event. It's not just a situation where you go and send an email or a notification in app to collect payment. It's a really important moment for the customer. This is a point in time where they're evaluating spend, evaluating the value that the product that they purchased a year or 2 years or 3 years ago still exists. And it's also an opportunity for them to say, what else do we have in front of us, and how else can we utilize this product? And so treating the renewal as such is very, very important. And also thinking about the processes that we as RevOps professionals own and how they relate to that buying moment, I think is super important as well. And I know we'll get into more detail later on this one.
And then, Julie, I would love to hear any thoughts around any automation flags we can put in place for customer success. I know a lot of people are using Heap and Pendo and other product monitoring software. Have you any experience along these lines?
Absolutely. So we actually use Pendo for NPS surveying. We also have a really great system in place called Gainsight that lies on top of our CRM system. We use Salesforce internally. And the big things that have helped the CSM, our CSMs and the CS team has been, one, really thinking about scoring, health scoring for customers, right? Because with that health score, that can really help you arm yourself for renewals, right? Because sometimes you're going into these discussions a little bit blind, especially if you have a large book of business and you may not have that relationship you would like with that particular customer. So having information in that health score that maybe pulls from your NPS, that pulls from activities that have happened in the last 3 to 6 months with that customer, really all feed into that picture to help you be a little bit more responsive during that time. And then also really thinking about, in the same vein as what Patrick was saying, it's such a key moment in their life cycle, but you really need to think about this months and months ahead, right? So you just don't want to be 30 or 60 days out from a customer's renewal date and thinking, okay, well, now is the great time to touch base with that customer. So, especially in economic times like this, it's really best to think about, well, even though it's 6 months away, is there an opportunity to reach out now, knowing that you have a huge runway to build value, especially if they don't see the value that you're bringing today, right? And so that increases the likelihood of the forecast for that renewal to be higher, right? And that's always better than just, again, waiting until the last minute.
Right. And I think of vendors I enjoy working with, like Chili Piper, that proactively reach out and say, hey, I noticed this cohort is using the product less. That's such a great experience, even though it's not great news. You can at least get in front of them for training. And then, Sarika, I know before we started the call, you had such a great point about customer touch points.
Right. And I was talking to a CRO this morning, right? And what he was telling me is, yes, renewals is very important, but we're finding is you want to actually increase the touch points with the customer and think of like breaking the renewal into multiple renewals in small steps, right? So every quarter can be a little bit more addition and a little bit more addition. And it's not about the collecting of the money or adding more seats. It's really about creating that strategic moment with that customer again and again, where you're adding more value. And we absolutely see across the board is let's get the money up front and sort of like do an ironclad contract for 3 years is becoming less the sort of norm. It's very much about, can we actually pay for value? So you get into the contract and you figure out how are you giving your customers value over time. And it's almost like you break the sort of renewal at every point where you're checking, are we in? Are we good? Are we adding value? Let's add more, right? So we're seeing a lot of that.
So Patrick, I'm going to minimize our faces so people can see the whole thing, and I'll let you run with this one.
Yeah, actually, I think what Sarika was just saying is a really good transition into this. What we're doing right now is actually building in those touch points into our EBRs as well, where we have dedicated 2 EBRs per customer, depending on segment. So our SMBs, they don't quite get that high of level of a touch, but our mid-market and our enterprise customers are getting 2 EBRs per year is our goal. And we've titled them as 2 different types. One is adoption, and that adoption is usually happening post onboarding. And then shortly after, usually about 3-4 months later, we're intentionally having an expansion and renewal EBR. So that expansion renewal EBR is essentially following the framework that you're seeing here on the screen. We go back to, why did you join? What was the value that you were trying to achieve? And confirm that with the customer. And by the way, we use Tatango, similar to Gainsight. And so we do like as a customer 360 tool, we have the ability to go and see all of those interactions, notes, touch points that we had with our customers and confirm that the notes that were provided during the onboarding process are actually coming to life and that value is being recognized. And then it's moving into diagnosis, right? So, hey, we're 6 to 8 months into our contract, and have you been receiving the value that you were anticipating? If not, why? Are there new outputs that you're anticipating with our product? Are there key objectives that are maybe changing or emerging that you could utilize our project for? And then once we understand that, then you're switching back to connecting our product and the renewal to those objectives that you're identifying. And finally, if it's an opportune time, confirming the renewal. From there, while we have those 2 main touch points every time, we do want to ensure that our customers feel like we are helping them along the value journey, and of course, setting up next steps. And those next steps might be, let's have you talk to one of our, we call them account directors. They do our upselling. So let's have you talk to one of our upsellers to help you review a new product that maybe best matches something that you're looking to work on. or perhaps you want to talk more directly to your RIE, who is going to utilize or run the paperwork on the contract. So we always want to set up a next step with our customers, especially at these really critical moments.
So many great opportunities for RevOps to add value through systems automation, through analytics. I really like this. Julia or Sarika, would you like to jump in?
I love all these points. I think if I can add, one of the things that we definitely see is giving visibility to sales success team on payment is actually so critical as well to understand the health of the customer. And oftentimes that's something that sits with finance and gets sort of like lost. And, if you're, of course, collecting annual upfront, it's less of a problem, but even there are things that tell you that this customer may not be healthy. So besides usage, I think payment is also a thing that we find is a very valuable metric for you to look at.
And I would love to add one thing that happens, especially when budgets are tight and a lot of companies are going through hardship and maybe even downsizing, is what do you do at renewal if you have a customer that's saying, hey, we actually may not renew, and how do you salvage that situation? And I think the next best thing would be, instead of accepting their non-renewal, is saying, hey, is there an opportunity for us to downsize the number of seats that you may be licensing from us? Or are there opportunities to maybe downgrade the product that they're on, especially if there are different tiers of products or services that you're providing? So, don't take no for an answer. Really try to be creative in terms of how you might approach that. Obviously, if they can't, they can't. But I think you can be creative in how you try to support a renewal, especially if they really are finding value in your product or service. They probably do want to stay with you, right? And so maybe that just means extending the term of their contract while downsizing the number of seats. So you are still getting that, annual revenue, but it's over a longer period of time. So just thinking creatively is oftentimes not only just, a bonus for you because you can retain that logo, and a bonus for them because they get to retain your product or service, but it's also a huge relationship builder. We've had customers who have said, there's so many companies out there that haven't worked with us, and you're trying to work with us to make us, figure out something that isn't, going to be perfect, but we can live with. And I think that goes a long way, especially when you think about a lot of what's happening at companies today. So just wanted to add that.
Great point. So auto renewals, this is one of my favorite topics, just because it was one of my earliest lessons in the necessity for communication. Anyone want to take a run at this first?
I can kick us off. So one of there are really great bullet points here that kind of talk about what you should think about if you're implementing auto renewals. Auto renewals can be fantastic, right? It provides less work for your CS team. You're almost guaranteed that revenue because it's rolling over into another year, or if it's a multi-year contract, which is fantastic. But things to think about is really the MSA and the legal terms. If you hadn't been thinking about auto renewals in the past, you will have to go through and really review, what's in your MSA and that language around that, and think about different scenarios, right? Because there may be situations, especially now, if someone has recently auto renewed and they want to upgrade or, maybe change the products that they have, you need to be prepared for those use cases or those scenarios. So really thinking about that ahead of time before implementing something like auto renewals is important. And then also really incorporating sales leadership in this process, because for them, it may be a loss of revenue for them, right? As AEs that are typically very involved in the sales process, they may not be as involved. And so thinking about ways to bring them along in that journey, or revising your comp plans for your sales team to take into account. A lot of times, if you want to ensure longevity, right, with your customers, you may want to think about incorporating some component of retention in your comp plan, so that they're really thinking about those customers that are going to stay with you in the long term. And, you know, as with all auto renewals, there's always questions about it. So making sure that you have enabled both your sales team and then also your CS team so that they can handle those questions about auto renewals, or even having a knowledge base or an FAQ that's available on a website or in your product that can quickly answer those questions. One of the things we did recently was we actually added FAQs to our invoices. There's a link that goes directly to billing related or even auto renewal related questions, so that, you know, customers can go right there, get those questions answered, and not have to reach out. So just making it a lot easier and making the communication clear will make it a much more seamless process for customers. Not sure if Sarika or Patrick, you want to add on.
Yeah, actually, Julia, I really like what you just said there with the email component. Even if we were to go back and think about what we were just talking about, I think it's almost important to additionally add language when you are auto renewing, and you do have to send that notice when you auto renew. So when you send that auto renew notice, don't just tell them that, hey, you're going to be paying here in the next 90 days or 60 days or whatever. Also let them know what they're going to be missing out on if they don't renew. Share that impact of or value that that the product brings and that they are losing out on if they are not going to continue on. I think that's a really key part as well. Additionally, with auto renewals, there are some potential traps. It's a great tool, but if you can sometimes become maybe a little lazier in for example, the way you forecast. You might assume that all auto renewals will automatically renew, and enforcing and ensuring that your sellers or renewers are actually forecasting this can help in a lot of different ways. It can help you improve your notification process. It could identify save opportunities. And then of course, like the whole point of forecasting, if you are actually forecasting those auto renewals instead of accepting that they will renew, you're going to have even more accurate prediction. Same thing with the billing practices. I think this one's really, really critical, especially I think in more of the SMB space and in the space that we're all experiencing right now. Everyone is evaluating spend. So if we are hiding the ball in the way that we are communicating our billing practices for auto renewals, I think it's a really, really easy way to escalate a customer. And so we don't want to do that. And being conscious of how we're communicating with them is important.
I think we've all seen that where somebody's like, let's just let this one slide by, and then it explodes into a contractual battle. Sorry, Sarika, I cut you off.
No, exactly. And we've actually had that experience with some vendors, and you know, auto renewals is not about sneaking in auto renewals. It is really an operational tool for you to operationalize this and make it much better for yourself as well as your customer. And we see great auto renewals done really, really well because they actually cut down the time spent on, you know, figuring out what needs to be renewed, trying to kind of figure out like what was the dollar value that needs to happen, and actually changing the conversation with the customer about the dollars that need to be renewed rather than the value that you're bringing to them or what's happening with their business, right? So auto renewal is a wonderful tool, but it needs to come with transparency, right? And so we do basically 3 sets of notification that you can send, right? So you might want to send one, you know, 90 days before, 160 days, 130 days, right? Just to make sure that they really know that it's an auto renewal, but it's not really a sneaky auto renewal. So we find it's really valuable. There's one point that I would like to add, which I think is really important. Pretty much every company in the MSA will say, hey, there is a CPI or some sort of price increase, and they're not able to actually pull the trigger on that. And I have heard of stories about millions of dollars being left on the table because nobody can actually figure out how to operationalize the the price increases because it's sort of buried somewhere else. So again, auto renewals gives you an opportunity to enable something like that. And that's really key because it's money that you have contractually agreed with your customer on, and you're actually making sure it gets collected in a proper way. So that's maybe a point to add over here.
So we have a question from Douglas. What is your vision on monthly versus annual contracts considering the renewal stress in the market? I think this moves away. This is complicated. It's going to be one of those, it depends, but let's hear your thoughts.
It really depends. So we actually have been shifting towards annual for a number of reasons. There is an operational cost to monthly cadence. If you are paying for any sort of invoice generation software or any other, kind of back-end systems, there's usually volume-based pricing around that. And so if you have a ton of customers and you're doing this every single month, there's a bit of operational overhead. So for us, we've made that transition to annual just to make it a little bit easier. But, again, it really depends on your use case. And I think, Patrick, you came off of mute because you might have something else to say.
Yeah, it depends is definitely the answer here, but I think being very conscious of your customer situation and also maybe the industries that you're selling to, the type of customer that you're selling to, I think is like first things first. Identifying even what their cash flow looks like. I mentioned we're in the real estate industry, and the way that cash is acquired is by having transactions come through. And so if our customers are unclear on how many transactions are going to come through from 6-12 months from now, that can be really scary for them. So not only, you can also have a renewal term length that is still 12 months, but you might have different billing structures. So you could have monthly billing with still an annual contract, and I think, or quarterly billing with an annual contract. And I think offering those types of structures is really helpful for customers, especially customers who might be have a little less cash on hand.
I totally agree, Patrick, and it really depends on your customer. I also think you're right that the operational overhead can be higher, and what we believe in is giving options. And what you can do is something like the annual option can be discounted because that's money you get up front. So you can give them a little bit of discount, and for monthly, you can charge them a little bit more because there might be a credit card fee that you have to pay, or the sort of cost of doing things may be higher. So giving optionality is a very good way to think of it, and making sure you're sort of like that's just a choice that you're giving to the customer. Right.
So I do want to make sure we're pushing forward. We're almost halfway through and we have a few more topics to go. So we're going to go ahead and move on to another meaty topic, which is expansions. Touchy topic in today's market. What are you guys seeing out there?
Yeah, maybe I could start. This is actually probably my favorite topic. And because I think I see again and again so many companies leaving money on the table because they will only have that expansion conversation at the time of renewal. And there is absolutely an opportunity and the ability now for us to be able to have touch points every quarter, every month, or even kind of build contracts out which are thinking about expansion from the beginning. And big believer, I'm a big believer of paying for value. And this gives you the ability to increase the value with your customer and then charge them for it, right? So we're seeing many versions of this in the market in terms of usage pricing or seat pricing, which can actually be, you can add seats over time. There's multiple ways that companies are beginning to do this, but the challenge of it is always the co-terming and the proration calculation of it. Because if you're doing the expansion in month 3 of a year contract, now who's going to do the calculation? How do you manage that? And of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say you should definitely be looking at a tool to help you with that, because this can be tool enabled for sure, right?
Yeah, just to reiterate on that one too, it's without a tool, it can be very manual. And if you have a high volume of renewals, it can also be very difficult to manually connect all of that. Not saying it's impossible, but you should also consider what you have at your disposal and how easy it is to turn this on and turn this off. I can tell you from experience that we have struggled to turn on the proration component because we had not had the tooling in the past. And so we've had to unfortunately create another renewal. And now the customer has two renewals with us, which now gives them two different moments where they're having to figure out what they're paying us, when they're paying us, how they're paying us. And that can be a slippery slope. So I want to just reiterate that very point. I'd also just say too, there are a wide range of expansion types, and it's really good to identify what those expansion types are. Are we adding seats? Are we adding products? Are we, putting on something that's like a product usage? Are they automations? Are they API calls? There's so many different things that could be out there that help you expand with a product set. Identifying those is important first, because then what you would want to do is just think about, okay, how much actual white space is there for this product? You could have a product in your suite that gives you very little white space to actually even go after, might be potentially low value too with your customers. And so is it worth it for your sellers to actually focus on some of those areas, especially if there's an area where you have a product that has a larger potential for white space, brings higher value to a customer. And so I think thinking through those first two bullet points in particular is a really critical first step, especially if you're starting to wade into expansion for the first time.
I was nodding like crazy because I've worked for multiple companies where the product manager wanted to do usage-based pricing without any mechanism to track usage in place. So yeah, taking the time to stop and say, do we have what we need to implement this is always really important.
Yes, and I want to add that expansion is actually a really great opportunity to showcase the value of RevOps. And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of companies really focus on the sales aspect of expansion. And this is where we can pull in data. This is where we can pull in marketing. This is where we can pull in a lot of different resources within the organization to make expansions more of a success. And one of the areas that I've had my team focus on is really utilizing our data providers, because a lot of data providers out there can tell you if a new person has joined that company, whether someone has left and maybe someone has replaced them in that role, or maybe they got a recent round of funding, or there was some other event that happened where expansion makes sense, right? And so that data can provide indicators to help you better time your outreach when it comes to expansion, and then also make your expansion a little bit more targeted. And then really thinking about marketing in this example, right, with these expansion efforts. I think we tend to think of like new business as really where marketing lives, but there is an opportunity for marketing around expansion. And that could be as simple as maybe corporate gifting, incentivizing in some ways, and then also thinking about longer term programs like rewards or referral programs to incorporate as part of expansions, so that it feels a lot more celebratory, right? And something that they may want to share. So just throwing those out there as, again, opportunities to bring alignment across different teams on the go-to-market side.
Fabulous points. All right, should we move to the next topic? All right, ramp pricing. I love this strategy. It's open.
So Julia, do you want to go first or should I? Because we both wanted to talk about this, right?
Oh, no, you should start. Okay. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
All right, awesome. Well, ramp pricing is probably the most used tactic that we've seen in the last 2 years, become very, very popular. And if you don't know ramp pricing, definitely find out or figure out if that makes sense for you. We use ourselves and see two flavors of ramp pricing, and the two are actually different. And one of them is actually what you see in sort of in that picture below. It's a discount ramp. And usually you're trying to get the deal closed. The party on the other side is budget issues, or, they're just having trouble with things. So you basically give them a higher discount, which sort of tapers off till the end of the contract. And what's really, really great about that is at the renewal time, you would renew at the last ARR value. So you protect your exit ARR, which obviously is very, very important for your renewal at the point of renewal. So that's one sort of method that we've seen. The second one is a quantity ramp, which is basically, you're actually building in the expansion right from the beginning. So if you have a 3-year contract, or even a 1-year contract, or 2 years contract, you're basically saying it might be 20 seats for this year, and then 30 seats or 50 seats next year, and you're getting a pre-commitment at that price. And obviously your customer is interested in that because they get a great price and can get a discount for it. But it's great for you because in times like this, when things are uncertain, it's a great way for you to again lock in that expansion right from there. And that's how you would actually recognize the revenue of it going from smaller to bigger. The last flavor we've seen of ramp pricing, it comes in terms of free months. So imagine you're doing a year contract, you just give them 3 months off, and then you ramp it up to the normal, to your regular price. A great way again to get a foot in the door and move things along. So definitely, especially in the last 2 years, this has probably become the most popular thing that we've seen, right? So, yeah.
Patrick, we haven't heard from you in a while.
I was just going to add to that. I'm looking at the risks here, which I think I typed out a good bit of these, but I forgot one that's pretty important, and I was reminded of it, which is compensation. Especially with those multi-year ramps, it can be tricky to calculate how are we going to attribute this sale into a quota. One of the things that we've been considering to sort of solve for that is, and I think that model over on the left-hand side is a great way to think through this, is what is the average ARR over that 3-year period, or 2-year, or 5-year, whatever it might be, period, and applying that to quota versus saying, some other, what just the first year, which ultimately penalizes the seller for something that will benefit the company. So thinking through about how you actually compensate for those types of nuanced deals is also really important. Making sure that's clear to anyone who's selling that, so that they are excited about the possibility for that type of structure, is also pretty important.
Yeah, I just wanted to add 2 things. I think the nice thing about ramp pricing is really this idea of retaining the value of the product, right? You're able to give these really great discounts, or enable them to get X number of months free, but yet still retain that value, that perceived value, right, of that product. And sometimes that can be hard, especially if you're deeply discounting, right? That perceived value can definitely be diminished. And so a technique like that helps you maintain that perceived value. And if you have a product or service that requires some time in order to get up and running, allowing them those free months is a huge game changer, because in essence, it feels like, oh my gosh, I have access to this amazing product. We can take our time to get up and running. They get to fully get configured and set up, in a way that will set them up for success. And so in many ways, it's also a benefit in ensuring that they have a really great customer experience once they're on board.
Julia, that's a super good point, because that's another internal conversation that we've been having, especially for the multi-year ramps, which is who should we even be targeting for these types of things? I think enterprise type customers, it makes a ton of sense, because implementation, onboarding can be a very long period of time, versus say like an SMB, where maybe they're up and running within weeks. So there are sort of differences between those different customer types, and that should be considered too for who's getting that type of offer.
Such a great opportunity to reevaluate your ICP, or ideal customer profile. And I know a lot of startups, we tend to go very broad and then discover there's some products or shortages in certain areas and start defining a bit of a UCP or unacceptable customer profile. So really thinking through that, it's a great opportunity to do that. We do have a question from the audience. It's a little off topic, as they admit, but they are wondering if you have like a quick tip or common strategy to help define a common data taxonomy across tools that span customer success, sales, legal, and finance. And to me, that's Tiger Team, hashing it out, arm wrestling if you have to, but if you have any quick tips, would love to hear them.
I have a really quick tip. But it's based on a couple assumptions. So we had to put a stake in the ground to say, what is our system of truth? And we said Salesforce is our system of truth. So this tip may not work for you if you don't have Salesforce. We also essentially convened a data committee to help oversee how our data is being managed, especially with integrations. We have a ton of integrations, but the thing that has helped us is this tool called Sonar. It gives you visibility into the data fields in your Salesforce system. Again, I don't know if it works with other CRM systems, but you can actually do a ton in that tool. We've essentially built data dictionaries through Sonar, and it's been easier to maintain that. And you can give people public views into that tool so that you can have people in marketing, people in CX actually understand which fields mean what and how it's being calculated, where it's being used. And so that's my quick tip, is another tool, but it's been a lifesaver for us.
Data Edo, and there's others out there too, especially if you're using a data warehouse in addition to your CRM that can help you automate part of that data dictionary process. But yeah, manual oversight is always needed. We have another question on ramp pricing specifically. Is a multi-year ramp deal considered one term versus 3 individual years, for example, for revenue recognition specifically?
For us, it's 3 separate years. I don't know how other
Yeah.
organizations are approaching that.
Same.
Does it depend on when you receive the payment? So I would think it would be potentially 3 if you're splitting out the payment. Yes.
So revenue recognition,
Oh, sorry.
so from what I understand, revenue recognition is connected to when the service is offered, right? And that's why if it's a payment plan where you're discounting, but you're getting the same service, you can recognize the revenue equally over the 3 years. So it's like an average value. If you are actually increasing the quantity, then you have to recognize the revenue for, your 10 seats year 1, your 20 seats year 2, your 30 seats year 3. So the revenue recognition will go up. But revenue recognition is always tied to how the service is used rather than the payment, when the payment comes in.
Thank you for asking that question. I think multiple people benefited from that. Thank you. So my favorite topic, Julia, I think we both kind of geeked out on this, is reporting. So let's talk about some best practices.
Yes. So number 1, you cannot, it's pretty much, if you cannot get this to work, you should not even bother with reporting, is really beginning with the data. Really making sure you have high quality data, the right quantity of data, and making sure you understand the source of your data. So I always say, you could build as many reports and dashboards as you want, but if your data is unreliable or there's some inconsistencies or gaps in your data, then what's going to happen is your end user, they're going to feel like there's distrust in that reporting. And so that's really where you need to start. It's make sure that your data quality is high, you have the right amount of data, and that you're capturing everything you need. So if you don't feel like you have that in your current system, please, please, please spend time doing that, because that will make a world of difference, because you just don't want your stakeholders questioning reporting and data moving forward. And then really think about the processes that impact revenue, right? Are there specific processes that provide specific value? Then those reports are going to look a little bit different. So obviously expansions and renewals will be 2 different types of reports, because there's different value that you're going to be getting from those 2 motions. And then the way that I approach reporting is that I look at it both from tops down and bottoms up. Tops down, so you can give those metrics and visibility to senior leadership or executives, but bottoms up in terms of operations, right? The big benefit of RevOps is that you can really make some significant efficiencies and changes from an operational level. So going bottoms up is important, and understanding what are those specific tasks that feed up into making an expansion successful or renewal successful will help you manage those operations and showcase the value of what RevOps can do. And then really thinking about forecasting, because again, with consistency in your renewal process or your expansion process, and then having that good data, forecasting becomes much easier, right? Because there's a consistent pattern or trend. So if you don't have that, it really is, doing all those fundamental things like working with your data, making sure you look at your processes so you can get there. And I think for me, the best type of reporting is one that's really integrated. So that's why we actually use Gainsight. There's a feature called CTAs, or call to actions. And so really think of it less in the long term as reports that you want people to look at, but more indicators or information that's in front of people when they need to take that action so that they can do that thing right now, right? So for renewals, it's instead of having a report that goes out every month of, hey, here are the upcoming renewals in the next, quarter, that should be something that's shown on a dashboard for those CSMs or AMs or whoever's actually executing on those renewals. And, really thinking about, again, putting it in front of people so it's built into their day-to-day. So that's my spiel on reporting.
Julia, I like that last piece you were just talking about, and maybe this helps the individual who's asking about taxonomy. I'm not entirely sure, but we actually use a taxonomy in our CS tool that is essentially IC. So is this valuable? Is this report or scorecard valuable for an IC? Is it important or valuable for a manager? And then often all of that data is all of their ICs that roll up into the manager. And then we have an executive view. So everything then rolls up into the executive. And each individual can only really see what is their data. So based off of the governance structure that we have in Salesforce. And what's really cool about that too is we have a couple scorecards similar to what Julia was just talking about. We call them zero Qs. So the zero Qs are, the whole goal is to get the number to zero. It could be our escalated customers. It could be risk triggers that we have found through usage data. We see usage dropping. That's a risk trigger. Then they get flagged and now they're in the zero queue. We need them out. So I think data is so important for actually taking action, especially at the individual level, especially for renewals and expansion. There's so much out there that you could be bringing in. I think the hardest part for us has been figuring out which data points are going to be valuable, which data points are going to be actionable, taking the shot, figuring out if that data works. Are people actually doing something about it? And if they don't, then adjusting our strategy, trying a different metric, trying something new.
Yeah, I don't have that much to add. I will say our RevOps lead has done a fabulous job of connecting systems so we get clean data which we can rely on. And I think that's probably like the baseline, but I also think this is where RevOps teams shine, right? Like this is where you become a strategic player of like really showing insights and call to actions to move the business in a very real way. So super important topic, right?
Just out of curiosity, are most of you relying on, I heard some different systems and integrating Gainsight and getting signals from other systems. Just out of curiosity, are most of your teams, do you integrate the data from your ERP into your CRM and rely on your CRM for a lot of these financials? Or are there folks out there who are using a data warehouse or some other solution, just out of curiosity?
We're in that journey right now. So
Gotcha.
right now for financial information, contact information, opportunity information, all subscription information, all of that is in Salesforce. We also have usage data we don't have a warehouse. So we're actually plugged into a tool that our product team uses, which is Segment. And Segment actually can, segment data. And so we turn on just certain events that we push into our CS tool called Tango. And we actually can calculate some fields right there. So we can see, say, for example, usage data expected versus usage data actual, and have a ratio. And that's what I mean by the zero queue. That's actually one of the triggers that we use with our zero queue. Moving to a data warehouse is the goal. And I think we were talking about this earlier, but we have a great opportunity where our product team has put on the product map customer adoption. And so the door has cracked open. We're sticking our foot in there and we're saying, hey, please, data warehouse, this is exactly how we can get product adoption figured out. If we have the ability to slice Salesforce information, marketing information from HubSpot, things like that, CS information, and start connecting it all together, we can start deriving insights like we've never had before. So it's a journey that we're just starting right now. But it is possible. You sort of do what you can with what you have, which for us was finding out that Tango integrates with Segment, and it gives us a little bit of insight into how our customers are using a tool.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're a smaller company. For us, there are two sources of truth. One is HubSpot for all the leads and kind of the funnel, and we actually have a very clear view of exactly what's going on. And the other tool actually is Cashflow, because in Cashflow we can actually see what are the contracts, what changed, when did they change, usage. We actually, it becomes a single source of truth of what's happening with your customers. So that those are our two probably main systems, right?
Yeah, that augmentation for reporting that's such a great add. So we had some potential topics, but we're near the top of the hour. So I want to give people an opportunity to let people know where you can be found. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead. And if LinkedIn's the best place, let us know where else to find you.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can search Patrick Sweeney, and it is spelled as my name is here, SWENY. But I'm also in the RevOps Co-op Slack channel as well, and so feel free to reach out. Happy to have a conversation, chat over Slack, whatever it might be.
And I'm also on LinkedIn. I do want to offer up two resources. One is an ROI report, and the other is an IT cost calculator, which you can find on the Electric website. I think one of the things as operators, we are always trying to figure out cost, and so IT services is a great way to reduce operational costs. So something to consider, and feel free to message me or say hi. I'm always down for a conversation, especially when it involves reporting or data. So hopefully we'll all see each other again soon.
You can find me on LinkedIn too. And like I said, renewals and expansions or upsells, cross-sells, my favorite topic. So, ping me if you want to chat. You can also find information as you know, we deal with this topic. So our website is getcashflow.com, CACHE. So find us, ping us, and we'll be happy to talk with you.
I just want to thank everyone in the audience for attending. I hope you got a ton of value out of this. I know I learned some things. Riley just dropped a couple of things in the chat, so we'll leave it open for a couple minutes so people can snag that. And just thank you all again for sharing your knowledge. I found it very valuable, and I'm sure our community did too. So thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.